So, some of you will know Joschka from his Facebook posts, which are always very interesting. But also, he's written a couple of articles about his car and the history of the car itself and how he came to own it and what he's done with it. That's in the Spirit and Speed, the English version, but also in the German REC magazine, which I can assure you both very interesting articles. So, Joschka, tell us about yourself. Give us a little bit of a background? What's your technical background, and maybe how did you get into Rolls-Royce and Bentley? Because you're quite young, for a Rolls-Royce or Bentley enthusiast, which I think is great, and that's one of the things that kind of appealed to me about working with you.
Yeah. So I studied engineering at university, and then just started getting work experience and stuff. And then I was able to purchase the car of my dreams, and it actually was a Jaguar, because it has like the 4 distinctive headlights. And I saw that car as a kid, and I always wanted one because it just stood out.
So you wanted a Jaguar?
Yeah, initially I wanted a Jaguar. But when the time came, just the crew cars entered the center stage of attention. So I thought, why not go for the very best? And I happened to find a really nice Turbo R in Germany, which is a German car. So
and that's it, that you feature that in the magazine. So if you want to see the car, it's in there, and it's a nice example, I can assure you.
And usually, if you buy a car like that, it's just going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a hobby. It's a really nice hobby, but it's costing you a lot of money. But when I visited the previous owner, I happened to lose one of those cabs here. That one.
And that's on the alloy wheel, right? That covers the covers the look.
Yeah, correct. And I just happened to buy a 3D printer at that time, and I used that one as a winter project to recreate the cab.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's just going to be a nice winter project, nothing more. I started to reproduce them because I wanted to experience the capabilities of my new 3D printer. And I initially only wanted to do it for myself.
Yeah.
And that's all. But I happened to post it on Facebook and stuff, and specialists like you caught your attention.
Yes, that's right.
And the next plan was then to do it as a side business. I'm just going to make these, and I cover the fuel cost for the Bentley.
Yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
But then, like 2 years forward, in 2022, my employer went bankrupt. And I was laid off. So I took the chance to found my own business, because in the meantime we introduced other products with you, like those guys here. And I thought I'd just give it a try. So I've been employed 3 years, and I'm now trying to be on my own for 3 years, and then I make the comparison.
Yeah. Okay, so we saw this product. I can't remember how we ended up working with you on this. This is, I mean, did you approach me, or did I approach you, or who was it?
I wanted to sell the cabs, and I went through the magazine and I looked up all the specialists here.
Okay.
And I texted them all, and the only one who responded was Mr. Röben from Sweden.
Yes. Who's one of our prestige parts resellers, actually. So yeah.
Really nice guy. And he happened to set you in CC.
That's right, yeah. That's how it happened, yeah. So we ended up, and I think that's where it kind of rose up, and I thought, this is interesting because, this is a technology which will suit the kind of volumes that we're doing for the aftermarket.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the key as to how we work together, because we need technical solutions to problems. And actually what we have in front of us here, and perhaps we should go through them in a moment, is some of the ways that modern technology is helping us to develop these products. And it's quite a team. We need each other in this, don't we? Yeah. So there's Joschka has some skills which are really useful in 3D printing, 3D scanning, design, and general engineering. And it will be that's really where I think the relationship started. We started looking at what we could do together.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really how it all started. So perhaps we should look at some of these products. Okay, so a lot of people think, popular thinking about 3D printing is you kind of scan a product and then literally just press print on your 3D printer and you've got it. But of course, it's just not like that, is it? So, for example, if you look at the alloy wheel lock covers there, that's a chromed plastic, isn't it? So there's actually a chrome finish on plastic there. So perhaps tell me a little bit about the challenges associated with that and why you can't just print the thing off.
The challenge in 3D printing and what distinguishes actually the man from the boys is the post-processing.
Yeah.
And in order to chrome a part, you need to be really good in the 3D printing process before the chroming.
And I guess that's in the design process or the actual CAD rendering of it, which is computer-aided design. Yeah. So it's actually the 3D model that you then print. Is that a good?
Yes.
So
you start with a scan or a CHD model.
Yes.
You have then your digital file. Then you have your 3D printing, and after that you have post-processing. Always.
Yeah.
It's not going to work that you press a button, you get the part out of it, like in the advertisement.
Okay.
It's not going to work
like that. Doesn't work that way. Yeah.
So the key is the post-processing, is 3D printing. And what's also a challenge is that a lot of parts are injection molded, are casted, or CNC machine, whatever.
So here's a good example of a part that was originally injection molded. This is the seat gearbox under the seats of the early Silver Spirit, Silver Spur, Mulsanne 8, and the turbos. That's all the gears sitting there enable the seat to be adjusted in different ways from the seat motor. This is not available any longer. You can see it's got old and discoloured. It's become brittle. And they tend to crack partly because of age, but also because you get fouling. Sometimes you get fouling in the mechanism. Not available, certainly not suitable to injection mold. It would just cost a fortune to get the tools. Yes. So that's where 3D printing comes in. And you can see what Joschka's produced here. And it really is, a great product. I mean, you can swap these over. That's just how precisely they've been made. It really is, a really nice product and solves a problem, which is exactly what we're looking for. So, tell me about this. This is a seat switch assembly, but it's a similar switch as used on the lumbar support, the electric windows, and so on. And this is in Silver Seraph and Anage models. So. This type of switch, this particular switch design here is used all over the car. And usually you have to, before you got involved, you'd have to replace this whole thing if you had it broke. So tell me about what goes wrong with these switches.
So, if you can hand me over it, there's just a little toggle beneath that switch here. And that's the only thing which breaks. Making that part malfunctioning. And
they've got flaws in them, haven't they? There's quite a few of them have bubbles in the actual plastic, so they tend to be weak.
They break on that. That's a weak point.
Yeah.
So what I did, I just reproduced or recreated that toggle here. It's again one of the early products.
Yes.
From 2020, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The only reason they are green is I had just the color available. There's no reason to it otherwise.
Yeah, but your ones are stronger than the original. I mean, that assembly there can cost, depending on which particular one, can cost £300 to £800 or more, and all you're replacing it for is because of a little toggle has gone. So it's a really nice and elegant solution. So obviously there's a cost implication to replacing the whole switch.
Yeah. So usually you would buy the whole assembly.
Yeah.
That's a few £100 depending on the actual switch spec. That's not only stupid from a financial point of view, but also from an environment point of view, because the only thing which breaks is that little guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So why replace all of it?
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a number of other products here. This is just a tiny little clip which goes on the GT trim, chrome trim, which actually at the moment or previously, when this clip broke, you had to replace the entire trim because the clips weren't available separately, which is kind of crazy. So obviously that's one that has been produced by Joschka. Much more sensible solution. Here we have the lens for the capping rail. This is all the way back on the Silver Clouds and S-types.
Phantoms.
And Phantoms, yeah. So this is underneath the rail and is a lens that is often broken or just, has become too old. Here we have something which I was always interested in this because this little baby used to be £100 from Bentley. That's the little indicator which your gear selector goes on your gear selector on Silver Shadows and Silver Spirit series. And Joschka's reproduced that for us. That's the little window brake on the Silver Shadows series. So that's it functions like a little clutch on your electric window. These tend to break and weren't available. This is an interesting future product. This is the brake reservoir float on Silver Shadows. This is actually an original one. We haven't got your prototypes here, but we've worked on this together. It's got a little magnet in here, and the magnet, this goes up and down on a little reed switch. So as the fluid level in the brake reservoir drops, the magnet creates a contact in the reed switch, which puts on your warning light on your dash. You might be able to see here, this is designed as a kind of two shells.
Yeah.
And what happens over time is that they actually leak. Brake fluid goes into here, and of course your light stays on. So the interesting thing about 3D printing is you're looking at making that as one piece, aren't you?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's going to be one piece, but still hollow on the inside, so it's going to float. That's one of the advantages of 3D printing, that you can design parts differently, but they still have the same function.
Yeah. And effectively, because you're not molding this part, you're actually adding layers of material.
It's made in one piece. Yeah.
So you can make it in one piece, and it'll never leak. Yeah. So we worked together on that. So I went away and got the magnet designed, and obviously Joschka's doing the assembly and the manufacture of the float, and that's another thing which certainly isn't available at the moment from Bentley, and it's becoming harder and harder to get second hand.
I would like to come back to the gear selector.
Oh, of course.
And I would like to emphasize that this one is a 3D printed part as well. It's translucent and 3D printed, and that's really the hard stuff.
Yeah, that's quite tricky, isn't it? Because usually you get layers.
Yeah, you get layers, or it's rather opaque and not really translucent, and you can actually see through it.
Yeah, properly transparent, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the original one.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot distinguish it. That actually distinguishes the man from the boys, to make the post-processing of a 3D printed part that good, that it's, for example, translucent or green. This is 3D printed as well. It's not casted.
Okay, so perhaps we could go into a couple of the newer products, which are literally on the verge of coming to market. Some of you may know that we already do I suppose a budget version of the Silver Seraphim Nanage mirrors, and this is an example of that. This product is much cheaper than the original Bentley one, but you'll notice that it doesn't have the bezel. So although it functions as a mirror, it doesn't have this bezel as produced here. So I've asked Joschka to see if he can actually replicate this for us, so that we can produce that as much more like the original component, but obviously still much cheaper. And that's something that's literally just come in. This is a sample that is just brought in today, which we're delighted to be able to proceed with.
And that's the 3D printed part.
That's 3D printed.
And that is the injection mold part. You can't distinguish it.
No, except your one looks a bit nicer. Yeah, but apart from that, it's better. So that's a nice little addition, and I think we've been talking about putting that into a bright chrome finish as well, which would be a nice upgrade, which wasn't available from Bentley, but I think would actually go really well on these cars. And we're going to be expanding our range of mirrors with and without bezels, in the coming weeks and months. Okay, so let's move on to these. So we've been working on these for how long now?
2 years.
2 years, yeah. So this doesn't happen quickly.
No.
For those of you who don't know what this is or don't recognise it, anyone who's got a four-door SZ series car, such as a Silver Spirit or a Turbo R, Mulsanne, and so on, they have these underneath the wiper arms in front of the windscreen. They're reversible, so this side, turn it over that way, will fit the other side. And vice versa with the passenger side trim, which is there. Now they have a chrome bezel or a black metal bezel, depending on the model. But perhaps if you'd like to pass me with the original one there, we can show what happens to them. And I don't think I've seen an original one of these that's fully intact. They've all broken over time.
Yeah.
So heat. Eventually the actual chemical constituents of the plastic actually leach into the atmosphere just through age. And of course they get very brittle, and they haven't been available for forever now. But together we've produced them. I mean, you've done all the work, I've just done nothing, but that's okay, that's how we like it. So yeah, these are coming out, we hope is it going to be July or August we should have those, 2022?
July, yeah. End of July.
Yeah, great, that's I'll hold you to that. So yeah, that great products, really difficult to make. If we were doing it in the original fashion, it would be injection molded, would cost a fortune, and we'd never be able to do it. But that's what Joschka's here for. We've got a pair on our Brooklands, which is one of our test cars. I have a Turbo R as well. That'll be getting Joschka's treatment there to the air intakes as well. So we'll replace those because, like all of them, they need replacement.
Yes.
So, I think it only remains for me to thank Joschka for his time. I hope that was of interest, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of us. We're going to be doing a lot together, I think, over the next couple of years. We have quite a few projects lined up. So thanks very much.